my name is Lola Mohammed Noor, and I'm a senior at the University of Minnesota, and I'm originally from Ethiopia as well as Eritrea, and I helped organize this rally. I'm also emceeing some of the rally chants. The reason that we're all here today is because we as concerned Americans and as concerned people within the African diaspora, specifically the Horn of Africa, feel that there are a lot of misconceptions about the famine in parts of Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and some reports say Eritrea, but that's not confirmed. We feel that there's a lot of dumping of aid going on without understanding the local context on the ground, without understanding the people, the societies, the culture, the unique needs. There's no sort of like a one-size-fits-all solution, which is how a lot of aid agencies, especially in the US, are treating the situation in Somalia. What a lot of people don't understand is that famine is political. This famine could have been avoided. Aid agencies had been complaining and raising awareness about the looming famine for years, not just months. But we ignored them, okay? The West ignored them. The United States government has actually been blocking aid to Somalia because of the fear that the food would end up in al-Shabaab's hands. But what this ended up doing was perpetuating this lack of food and food scarcity in the region. So there's all of these political things that are going on in a region that has had very arid weather conditions for centuries. That it's natural. So the drought is natural, but what a lot of people don't understand is famine is political, and this famine could have been avoided. And what we're trying to raise awareness about is to let Americans know that for the future, we need to learn from our mistakes. The 1984 famine in Ethiopia also could have been avoided, and here we are 20-something years later, the same thing is happening again. So we're trying to raise awareness so that we as concerned citizens and aid agencies don't make the same mistakes again. So what does this mean? When you're giving aid, make sure you're trying to find local charities, so charities that are local here in the Twin Cities or in your city, as well as charities that work directly with local charities in the Horn of Africa. Try to look for organizations that other people trust, and also try to look for organizations that are run by Africans for Africans. So for example, Araha is a great nonprofit that has been around for 11 years. They're run entirely by East Africans. And if you donate to them, they tell you exactly, they break it down, where the money goes and who they send it to. So we're just trying to make people more mindful of, how they're spending money, how they're giving aid and relief, and whom they're giving it to. And ultimately, that's what the purpose of this rally is to raise awareness and to make people understand the context.
So under the U.S. Treasury, there's a program called OFAC, which really determines a lot as far as humanitarian aid goes. Since 2010, there's been restrictions against the al-Shabaab controlled areas that make it difficult for NGOs to operate in the area. For example, one of the sanctions has been that if an NGO is operating in South-Central Somalia, if their aid accidentally gets into the hands of al-Shabaab, there would be legal ramifications to that. So a lot of NGOs were quite frankly just worried about it. There's a lot of anxiety about working in that area. So what's happened now is the U.S. government has essentially eased some of those sanctions, but it really falls short of addressing the issue to the core. So now you find that USAID grantees and contractors are covered under this new protection, but the authorization really doesn't give a wider latitude to all the NGOs in the area. And if you look at who's operating in Somalia right now, particularly in the famine impacted areas, most of those organizations are not grantees of USAID. So there's a discrepancy there in terms of there are NGOs on the ground, but they're not protected by that law, so there's legal ramifications that they may face. But more importantly, corporations and foundations can't and won't invest in those NGOs. So these NGOs are now relying on private donor support, people like you and I, to give and to raise money that way. So we're hoping that that the State Department will ease those sanctions so that any NGO that's been vetted by the IRS, that is a public NGO that can operate in the area, enjoys this wider latitude, so they don't have to fear being prosecuted, or they don't have to fear that they would be tied down with this legal entanglement. We really feel like laws that are specific to terrorism, for example, when we place more emphasis on that, or we place more emphasis on Al-Shabaab getting some aid, and you consider the humanitarian cost of people who have and will continue to die if we don't remove these restrictions, there's an imbalance there. And I feel like all of us, we're for human rights, and we're for accessible aid, and we're for aid getting into the hands of the right people. So we're kind of here today. One of the major things that this rally sought to accomplish was essentially to urge our legislators here, but also those across the country, to really think hard about these sanctions and sort of mobilize to remove them or to ease them, so that anyone who's in the area that, again, has been vetted already should enjoy the wider latitude and protection. Thank you.